Hey there, people. Today, I want to show you something very, very special that Dan has achieved within our Fit for 90 program. I want to tell you about what he's done over the last few months. Now, as you can see here, Dan's got himself an incredible result. He's gone from being a bench warmer, from being overweight, from feeling unfit, watching games from the sideline, to becoming an absolutely different animal. Now, Dan's someone who had a very demanding job, and he still has a very demanding job. He's still in the program. He's still working really, really hard, and he's achieving some incredible things within his football, which I'm going to speak about very shortly. Now, within his job, he's got a lot of travel, and it's quite a high pressure environment that he finds himself in. The time that he had around that, as you can see from the photo on the left here, he was wasting on training that wasn't really making him a better footballer. Now, Dan's not a lazy guy. He is very, very self-motivated. He's got great drive. He's actually quite a high performer. And that's the first thing I want you to understand about him. Dan was putting a lot of effort into his training. That guy on the left was training hard. He was doing his best, but he had no structure behind what he was doing. Now, if we fast forward to now, Dan sent me that photo on the right just last week. He's playing full 90 minutes. He's faster. He's more explosive than he's ever been in years. He's stayed injury-free throughout the whole season, and he's just signed for a club in the league above who are now pushing for the playoffs, which is incredible. He's gone from being a bench warmer on Sundays to playing a league up in now a playoff push. He's got 4 games left, 4 cup finals as we've branded it. Must-win games, and he's been brought in to solidify things at the back for that team as a centre-back. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how we've done it. All right, the 3 things we changed, the system we built around his actual life, and why everything he'd tried before kept failing him. Now, if you're a non-league footballer, if you're a non-league player who feels like you're putting in the work, Saturday just keeps feeling the same, you're not really performing as you should be, this is for you. So stay with me. All right. So where was Dan when he first messaged me, when he first reached out to me? He was obviously carrying extra weight, as you can see, the guy on the left there, enough weight that it was stopping him from actually being able to even last more than 30 minutes on a football pitch. His legs were always heavy. He would fade very, very quickly when he was involved. He would be getting beaten to the ball constantly, getting beaten to balls that maybe he should have been winning. Now, away from the pitch, he was going to the gym, but the way that he was training when he stepped into the gym, he was doing chest sessions, he was doing back sessions, he would do a little bit of legs. It was training that maybe looked like it would work for him, but nothing that a footballer should be doing. It was a lot of hours in the gym, but nothing was really changing, and it definitely wasn't changing on a football pitch. He would do a lot of extra running to try and get fitter, but what we soon established was actually running more, and we know this now, that running more is never the answer. It's almost never the answer. It just makes, you stack fatigue on top of fatigue. It just makes you tired if you don't have a strategy behind the type of running you're doing and the amount of running you're doing. And the problem that most non-league players have is, it's not that they don't run enough, it's that their body can't actually produce enough force late in games, and running alone isn't going to fix that. And then if you look at what Dan was doing around that, he had a very, very busy life. He travels a lot for work. Some weeks he was away for 3-4 nights. So any plan that he had followed prior to joining us assumed that consistent weeks were like dead on arrival. Like he'd start something and then a busy stretch would hit and it would fall apart. Every single time he would struggle with that structure, especially when he was traveling. And a result of doing that meant that he would start as a sub. He wouldn't come on until the second half. He wouldn't get picked. He'd actually not want to come on to the pitch himself because he felt like he didn't want to make mistakes because he knew he wasn't fit enough. And he was sitting on the bench knowing that he had more to give, but he couldn't show it when it really, really mattered. And this was just with Sunday football. This wasn't even about Saturdays just yet. By the way, Dan actually came onto my podcast and told the whole story himself. So somewhere around this video, there'll be a link. If you want to hear it, from him, that's the place you can find it. And it's it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. He really loved jumping on as well. But here's what I want you to hear. Like, Dan's situation it's not unique, right? I speak to players like him every single week, and these are serious footballers. These aren't just kids messing about or just playing kind of a little bit of football here and there. These are grown men with jobs, responsibilities, with families, but they also genuinely care about their football. And almost all of them are making the same mistakes. And it's not because they're not trying. It's because no one has shown them a better way to do things. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe you're still showing up, still putting the work in, still getting those extra sessions in, but that yard of pace has gone. Maybe the 75th minute hits and the legs go to jelly, and you can't really work out what you're doing wrong. Now, this isn't necessarily just down to your conditioning or your fitness. It's a problem with the structure you've got throughout the week. And fitness is one thing. A structure issue is something very, very different, and it's something that can be fixed. So how do we go and take Dan from that guy on the left to the guy you see on the right today. What actually changed? There was 3 things. The first thing was that we built a plan around his life, not the other way around. Every program that Dan had tried before joining the Fit for 90 program assumed that every single week would be perfect. Now, his week is not perfect. It does not look like that. And mine doesn't either. Yours probably doesn't either if you're watching this right now. So we built a system that fitted the life he actually had. We've got a very flexible system that is adaptable to any athlete's circumstances, commitments, work, personal life, social commitments. For Dan, it was 2 gym sessions a week, 1 pitch session. So it was a total of 3 sessions a week. That's it. That's how we achieved this. But every single session he did had a purpose. And when a chaotic week hit, which they always do, we had a scaled down version that kept him moving closer to his goal instead of falling off completely. So we had a structure that we could bend, but it never broke. The second thing we did was replace his bodybuilding training with athletic training. Because Dan was doing a lot of chest work, his arms, his back. He probably looked like and felt like he was working hard, but none of it would actually make him faster, more powerful, more robust on a football pitch. So we stripped all the bullshit away and replaced it with movements that would build what football actually needs. Force production, for example, we worked a lot through trap bar deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts. We built eccentric strength. As he got more advanced, we did contrast training, so heavy lifts straight into an explosive movement. A lot of plyometrics, a lot of bounding, a lot of sprinting. The first time Dan did a plyometric session, funnily enough, he told me his legs felt kind of more alive and he felt more explosive on the game that he played on the Saturday following the plyometrics than they had in 2 years. And it was because he'd built up certain levels of stiffness in the ankles and the tendons. He'd built some force production, and it's almost like he'd turned the engine back on. It was a real kind of pivotal moment for him because he realized actually he was doing things the right way and he was starting to feel it on the football pitch. Around all of this, as you can see here, we took him from being over 114, 15 kilograms to now 89 kilograms. The way we did that was through nutrition. We taught him the fundamentals of nutrition. We taught him what the pillars are and then the foundations that support those pillars. And we broke this down for him and then we implemented it on a week-by-week basis, which allowed him to get leaner, to improve his energy, to get stronger, to get faster, to get more powerful, but also to improve his confidence. Because I don't know about you guys, if you're watching this right now, but me personally, I always feel a lot more confident when I look good. And I've been through phases myself where I've been overweight. I was actually 110 kilograms at one point. I wasn't that different from what Dan is there on the left. I'm now floating around the 80 kg mark. I know how it feels to not feel and look great within yourself, and that's difficult. But as you improve your performance, as you get leaner and you improve how you look, your confidence grows. And this is what we found with Dan through helping him to understand the nutritional principles that are required to actually get leaner, because it does come down to nutrition. It comes down to being able to understand it and then implement it around the chaos that life brings. The third thing we did was we managed the match and the training around the match properly. So a lot of non-league players, they'll train the same way every single week, regardless of what's coming. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, the same loads, the same effort every single week. But then they wonder why they feel flat or they end up picking up a niggle. So what we did, we mapped out Dan's whole week around his matches. Tuesday, Saturday, whenever he'd be playing, his team training, his small-sided sessions. So we knew when to push, and then he also knew when to back off. He knew how to handle a midweek fixture. He knew what the day before a game should look like. He knew how to actually recover after a Saturday game. And when you start treating Saturday as the event, the main event, everything else is building towards that. Instead of it just being another day in the week, everything changes around it. And Dan's performances in the back half of this season have been completely different to the first half. He's the same player, but he's had a different system. And not only that, he's actually taken himself to play a league higher now. So 3 main things that changed for him were 3 mechanisms. We built a plan around his life. We replaced the bodybuilding training with athletic training and supported that with the right nutrition. And then we made sure we built his whole training week and structured it around games and football. Football was always the priority. 12 months ago, Dan was on the bench. He was overweight. He was fading by about 60 minutes. He wouldn't even start games. So when he came on, the games he did start, he wouldn't be able to really get that deep into the second half. But when he came off the bench, 20, 30 minutes in, and he'd be blowing. He was doing sessions that weren't helping him. And he was really trying to hold it together around a schedule that didn't fit his work. It made being consistent almost feel impossible. Right now, he's lasting full 90 minutes. He's faster, he's more explosive. He's been injury-free. He's just signed for a new club in a higher league. who are pushing for the playoffs. And it's because someone at that club watched him and decided that guy's worth having. He needs to be an outside. He's the same person that you see on the left. He's got the same job. He's got the same travel schedule, the same busy life, but he had a different system. And that's what took him from looking like he did on the left to being that guy you see on the right. The thing that Dan said to me early on as well, and he mentioned this on the podcast, was that he didn't really feel like a footballer anymore. He felt like he was someone who used to play football. And that hit me, because I hear a version of that constantly, and I know how that feels. Players who are showing up, they still care, but really they're feeling like they're slowly kind of fading out of the game. And it's not because that desire isn't there. It's just because the support isn't, the structure isn't, and they're feeling a little bit off the pace. They're feeling like, actually, you know what, maybe I'm not equipped to do this anymore. And that's not the case. They're still capable. It's just they need the right structure and support in place. And that's what this is really about. It's not just numbers with your fitness. It's not just about improving your performance metrics. It's not just about getting leaner. It's about feeling like an athlete and feeling like a footballer again. Walking out on a Saturday knowing, yeah, I've done the right work and I've got something to offer and got something to give. Whether you're playing step 7 or step 4 or step 3, it doesn't matter. You step out onto that pitch, you step across that white line, you know you've got something to give and something to offer. And Dan has that now in abundance. And it didn't take a miracle, to be honest with you. We did it through some very, very simple strategies, as I've mentioned. It took a system that was actually built for his life. So if you're a player watching this right now who's playing non-league football, if Dan's story sounds very similar to yourself, if you're the player who's putting a lot of work in, but you're not really getting the return on the efforts that you're putting in, if you're showing up every weekend, every Saturday, but you're feeling like you're slowly kind of fading out of the game, you're not really affecting the game, I want you guys to go and hear the full conversation, because Dan talks exactly about where he was, what it felt like to be coming off at halftime or coming off the bench or not really being, not even wanting to play because he knew he couldn't offer anything to the team. And he talks about what changed and what it means for him now, what it means to be able to go and sign for a new club in a playoff push, what it feels like to be a footballer again. Now, it's not a pitch, there's nothing to buy. It's just an honest conversation with a player who was stuck and he's not stuck anymore. So somewhere around this video, there's going to be a link to the podcast, which will take you to Spotify. It's probably going to be in the description below. Go and listen to it. And if after hearing Dan's story, you think, yeah, that's me, I want that, you'll know where to find me. And if you don't do anything with this, nothing changes. And that's fine if you're happy with that. You get the same training, you do the same sessions, you'll get that same feeling on a Saturday. And 3 months from now, 4 months from now, you'll still be wondering why it's not clicked. Remember, you've got good intentions, but the structure and the system you're following right now, there's something missing from that. So go listen to Dan. The link's somewhere below here. And I'll see you guys next time.